South Dakota State University offers 4-year degrees that strive to meet job market demands. One of those degrees is medical laboratory science. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, over 70,000 job openings are projected for the medical laboratory science field by the year 2022. The demand for medical laboratory scientists continues to exceed the number that are even graduating with a degree. Today, I'm here with Stacy Lansing, Program Director and Instructor for Medical Laboratory Science at SD State. We are going to talk about the degree and what the future holds for those who choose to pursue this field. Thank you for speaking with me today, Stacy.
You're welcome.
Just to start off, I feel like we need to establish what medical laboratory scientists are. What do they do?
So medical laboratory scientists, or MLS, as we are often shorthand called, we are behind the scenes in the healthcare. So we are the ones that can draw blood, but mainly what we do is we test anything that comes out of your body. We can test for it in some way, shape, or form. Blood, body fluids, bone marrow, anything. And so we make up about 70 to 80% of a patient's medical history. And if you go to the doctor's office or you go through the ER, more often than not, the first thing they're going to call for is labs because they want to know what's going on. Even if you have to pee in a cup, that we are still the ones that are going to help them identify what's going on. So it can be very exciting, and you just never know what your day is going to be like.
So every time you go to the doctor's office and they say, we need to run some tests, we need you to do some labs, and you're like waiting for the results, the people who you're waiting on is medical laboratory scientists.
Yep.
And a big reason why people are waiting on them is because there are so many job openings in the field that so many people are being diagnosed with diseases like type 2 diabetes, for example. Mm-hmm. So many people are being diagnosed, so there are so many more tests that need to be run. And we need more people. We aren't graduating enough people to fulfill the demand.
And that's the challenge that even physicians and nurses face, is there's so many lab tests out there. What tests are going to be appropriate for your patient? And so they need us to kind of be that reference and resource as well to say, well, this would be a test if what you're looking for is diabetes, or if you're looking for a urinary tract infection, or leukemias. I always tell students, too, we are always the first ones that knew what was going on with the patient. So I had a patient one time that came through the ER and they thought she had the flu, when in fact she had cancer. And we were the ones that saw it first, knew what was going on, let the physicians know, and got her the right treatment. A lot of students that we get like the labs, so microbiology lab or chemistry lab or biology lab. The lectures kind of go hand in hand, but it's the labs actually doing the testing that a lot of students find very interesting. And in our line of work, we don't have to specialize too much unless you want to. You can be what's called a generalist and work in the different areas of the lab. So hematology, you're looking at blood under the microscope. You're doing a complete blood count, looking at hemoglobin, hematocrit. Chemistry, you're looking for glucose and diabetes, liver disease. Microbiology, playing with microorganisms, trying to identify what type of bacteria it is and what type of antibiotics to give. Blood banking, transfusion medicine, making sure you give the right blood products to the patients. All those things just fascinate students, and that's what they want to get into and do, is actually do more to help patients.
So to kind of break it down a little bit, this major would be good for people who are interested in science, human biology, like diagnostics, like that kind of stuff.
It is, and then we have some that use it as kind of a stepping stone for medical school, physician's assistant school. We've had laboratory professionals working in the lab and then go on to nursing school or pharmacy. So because of the job demand, it allows people to get that hands-on healthcare experience and then kind of weigh their options if they want to stay, if they want to move on, or if they want to specialize in an area of the lab. HLA is becoming a big one with transplant medicine. Stem cell technology with cancer treatments. There is lots of opportunities in the lab that weren't there when I graduated a few years ago.
So what does their job look like? Like, what's the starting salary when you're graduating right out of college?
Most of the students are starting to graduate and are working at around $20 or more an hour. A lot of them will start out working off shifts, so the nights and the evenings, and then you get paid a few bucks more. And then each state is different. But from what I've heard, it's usually in the $20 range or a little bit more. And then the other bonus is a lot of facilities or hospitals have sign-on bonuses. And so they are in such demand that they're willing to pay $10,000 for you to come and work in that lab in that setting. Mostly rural settings, but it's still an option.
That's awesome. So why should people be interested in pursuing medical laboratory science?
If you're interested in healthcare, but you don't want to have a lot of patient interaction, because we are so behind the scenes, our interaction is mostly limited to those that we work with. In some facilities, some of the rural ones, clinics, we do draw blood. And so that gives us some patient interaction. But for the most part, it's very limited. And a lot of people prefer that, but they still want to work in the healthcare. So that's one aspect of it. And again, the sciences, wanting to do the testing. I always refer to it as being the detective in healthcare, because you're trying to figure out what's going on and helping the doctor diagnose these patients.
Sure. So there are a couple different educational paths at SDSU to get your bachelor's degree in medical laboratory science. Can you tell me about those?
So the traditional one is students come, declare medical lab science as their major. The first 2 years, they are getting the prerequisites, the science, English, everything you need to graduate from SDSU. They apply to our program, and once accepted, then they start taking MLS classes in the fall, into the spring, and then a fall again. And then they go to their clinical experience, different hospital settings we have within the state, Minnesota and Iowa, that students can gain real-world hands-on experience. So that's one option. And then they are eligible to sit for the Board of Certification exam. The other one is our Upward Mobility Program, and those are for students that are working as a 2-year tech. So they've gotten their MLT, Medical Laboratory Technician, from one of the technical schools. They apply as well. They have to be admitted to SDSU, apply to our Upward Mobility Program. They have to have 2 years of work experience as a laboratory professional. And once accepted, then they take all online classes. And that's the beauty of the Upward Mobility Program, is it's all online. They don't have to leave their hometown, because we work with the hospital that they are working at for their clinical experience. And so that allows them to stay and to obtain their bachelor's degree. So those are the two options.
So they can work and go to school at the same time, and they kind of play into each other.
Yep.
A little bit. What's the difference between the 2-year MLT degree and the 4-year MLS degree?
So the 2-year degree is from a technical, it's associate's degree. They work more in clinics and small rural hospitals is usually where they can end up, but they can work in larger hospital labs. It may come down to what they can do for testing. Some facilities will not let an MLT work in blood bank or microbiology or anything that's very complex testing, so molecular diagnostics. But again, it depends on the facility and the demand. The MLS degree is a bachelor's of science, and that is, some people are wanting to get that degree, especially to move into management roles or to become a specialized in hematology or blood bank or micro. You need a 4-year degree. And a lot of the more complex areas, that's where they want the 4-year degree or the MLS to work, because of all the complexity that's involved in the testing.
So for people who are interested in the Upward Mobility Program, what's the value of going back to school for that extra 2 years to get your 4-year degree?
For some of them, it's just they want to get more education. They want to get that bachelor's degree. For some, it is their leader or their supervisor, their lab manager is now retiring, and there is nobody that will take over. And so they find this as an opportunity to advance their career. Some of them, it's money. So makes the world go around.
It's a great incentive.
Yep. So for a lot of them that we see, it's different motivating factors. And some of them too, it may be, again, testing. Maybe they can't do certain testing that they really want to do, so they need the bachelor's degree.
Sure. So being an MLS student in SDSU's program, what is it like? What can students expect?
It is intense. They are busy. When they first start out, it's kind of a get you into the program. We always tell students it's a different way to study. It's a different way to learn because what they learn in the first semester builds on itself because it is a program. And so we always tell them, don't forget anything. Don't give back your books. Because we will come back to a lot of the key concepts that they learned the first semester and build on them. And then when they get into the program, it's a lot of taking what we've taught and applying it to different situations because patients don't read a textbook. And so you have to be able to look at lab results, look at their history, and kind of determine what the next step would be, or where do I go from here, or why doesn't this result make sense? Again, being a detective. So it's very interesting. And once students get into the spring semester where they actually are doing a lot of the hematology, microbiology, and actually doing hands-on what they do in a lab, they see how it is impacted and how much fun it can be. And then when they get to the fall semester, they could look back at the new group coming in and they say, wow, I've come a long way. And that sense of pride. And then when they go to the hospital and see what they know, and then within a few short weeks, they have a job.
Sure. So there are places across the country that have medical laboratory science programs. And for students who are considering this field, why should they pick SDSU over other people's programs?
So SDSU is a 2+2 program. So we hold the accreditation process or the accreditation from NACLS, which is the National Accrediting Agency for Laboratory Education. And so our students, once they come into the program, because we hold that accreditation, then they can do clinicals anywhere. And we have had a lot of students that have found their own clinical site, fulfilled the requirements, and then they're able to stay closer to home, maybe save some money during that clinical experience. So that is the unique thing as well. And we are the only university accredited program in the state. And so some of the other schools, students may get their prerequisites, the science and the math, but then they may have to go somewhere else. They may have to go to another university program to finish their degree, or they may have to go to a hospital-based program where they are in it for a full year. So it's a little bit different, but students like SDSU's MLS program because we have high pass rates, we have 100% job placement, and 100% graduation rate. And so that is the other benefit that students like is we prepare you well enough to pass the board exam and get a job.
That's a pretty good selling point. That's a pretty good investment. I'm 100% graduation rate, and when I graduate, I'm guaranteed to get a job. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and we always tell students when they start looking at the clinical experience, try to find a hospital where they actually want to work, because a lot of our hospital sites, they're looking to hire. And so they like to train students and then hire the students. So that is their benefit as well.
That's awesome. They can graduate with a job.
Mm-hmm. All of our students, they're summer grads, but they all have a job before they're done. And I still have, in the summertime, hospital directors, lab directors emailing and asking, do you have any students left? Nope, they're gone.
I can speak from experience, though. Graduating with a job is a great feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing that people don't want to have when they leave SDSU. We like to end our podcast with two different things for each person that we bring on here. And the first being, what is your favorite thing about SDSU?
My favorite thing is it's a university campus, but it has that family feel to it. When I graduated high school, I came from Iowa, and I didn't want to go to a big university because small town, didn't want to go. But working here, it just has that sense of everybody works together, everybody gets along, and so it has that family feel to it.
That's awesome. And then what's your favorite thing about Brookings?
Brookings I like the town. Very, again, small town, but it has a big city feel to it a little bit. And it's close enough to Sioux Falls that it's not uncommon for a lot of people to get on the interstate and go to Sioux Falls. A lot of our students do get part-time jobs. They always are looking, especially at hospitals, what can I do in the summertime? And Sioux Falls is close enough. We have had students that have gotten internship opportunities with Avera and Sanford. And so, again, they can live in Brookings, which is great, very nice, and then they can hop on the interstate and get to Sioux Falls.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy, for taking the time to speak with me about medical laboratory science at SDSU. This is Between Classes. Thanks for listening.